Good morning, afternoon, night, wherever you're watching and whenever you're watching this. I was your boy, the HDD of the PSP, and you can follow us on social media at PSP on Twitter, Pitch Simple on Instagram. Like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Enable notifications to receive all the updates, and you could listen to this on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform. Welcome to episode 69 of the podcast. Let's not waste any motion and let's dive into straight into the action. Yesterday, and we're kicking off, of course, from the Premier League, and it was a very, very newsworthy Saturday in the Premier League, and it kicked off at the King Power Stadium. Leicester City dropping Liverpool, I would say, relatively to what happened in the game. 3-1 it ended, and it was a crazy scenario really for Liverpool. They started with, of course, Ozan Kabak making his debut, his first full debut for the club, playing with Jones, Wijnaldum and Milner in the midfield, starting with a normal trio. For Leicester City, they started with somewhat of a 3-4-2, of 3-4-3, sorry, with, of course, Pereira and Albrighton as wing-backs, Soyuncu, Evans and Amati as trio in the centre-half position, Ndidi ahead over Tielemans, Barnes, Maddison, and, of course, Jamie Vardy. It was interesting. Again, the game was interesting, and Liverpool, lost the game where they were really dominant, I would say, mostly, particularly in the first half. I mean, the first half, really, they were really, really dominant, despite the fact that Leicester City had a couple of really, some really dangerous chances on the other end for Jamie Vardy as well, who hit the crossbar. Alisson had to make a save. He had a couple of opportunities. I mean, for some points in the first half, it was like Leicester trying to sit deep and play on the counter, knowing that they will find spaces behind the midfield and behind the centre halves of Liverpool. For Liverpool, I think they did a lot of things right in the first half. They played really well. They rolled the ball around. They found spaces. They found chances, but they couldn't get enough to score in that first half. In the second half, it was Mo Salah opening the scoring thanks to a beautiful assist from Roberto Firmino. It was a nonchalant finish, really, from Mo Salah, but the assist, I think, stole the show from Roberto Firmino, but that goal, I think, couldn't really stand for a lot. It was 78th minute, James Maddison equalising from a free kick that was very, very controversial. Was it an offside against Daniel Amate or not? Was he, there was two players, really. You could say they're in offside position, but the VAR deemed them onside and the goal stood. But the second goal, I think, is the one where the focus needs to be done. It's a pure defensive, shambolic kind of mistake. I mean, all the bad adjectives you can attribute to the bad defending, you could see and you could say in that goal. A misunderstanding, pretty much, between Ozan Kabak and Alisson Becker, maybe a lack of confidence. They hit each other, the ball comes down to Jamie Vardy, and when you're given an empty net to Jamie Vardy and expecting him to miss is somehow ridiculous. Then, 4 minutes later, Harvey Barnes, another mistake from the defence, another giveaway. He finds himself behind the defenders and, of course, scores. He's a brilliant player, Harvey Barnes. In 7 minutes, Leicester City managed to score 3 goals. These are the 7 minutes where Leicester City won the game. That is literally where they played their best football, had their best, chances, and they scored the goals. That is where their danger came from around in those 3 games, in those 7 minutes, scoring those 3 goals. And Liverpool remained chasing the game afterwards, and they couldn't because of their sort of slow nature to react. In some reason, they made changes. Thiago Alcantara wasn't good, and a lot of people were criticising him. Overall, it's a bad loss for Liverpool. A bad loss not in the result even, and not even on its effect on their standings, which is already a big problem now for them, because they dropped to 4th, and believe it or not, Chelsea could leap over them. I mean, there's West Ham, Chelsea could leap over them, Everton could go joint 5th with them. This could be really, really bad for Liverpool at the end of the season. It's more also about the way they lost and the way they shipped those 3 goals anyway. Jurgen Klopp admitted that he conceded the title, and it is really sad for him. Obviously, I mean, there was even rumours that he left the club. Obviously, they're not true at the moment, but I mean, at the night, there were a lot of rumblings that he is leaving the club, and rumours circulated a lot, but nothing was true, so fine. Crystal Palace defeated Burnley defeated Crystal Palace away from home 3-0. It was Roy Hodgson's side drops points against Burnley in a game that, as you would expect, Crystal Palace had more possession against any game against Burnley. The side against Burnley would have more possession, but somehow not always wins. Burnley had the more dangerous chances. They scored 3 goals. One of them, of course, is on a corner, on a set piece, expectedly. It's Burnley. They score on corners. Jay Rodriguez, of course, scoring the second goal, Gudmundsson opening, and Luton adding the third goal early in the second half to give Burnley an important win for them. It's somehow it's somehow an incredible win, for Burnley, of course. You don't expect Sean Dyche to win a lot, so it comes as a surprise, really. The big game, of course, Man City versus Tottenham 3-0. It ended at the Etihad Stadium, and it was a drubbing from Man City, a proper drubbing in the way it happened and in the scoreline. Tottenham were never there, to be fair. I mean, I mentioned it in the review. They were too exhausted by the end of the game because City knew how to manage the game. They dominated, of course. They had more of the ball. And boy howdy, is Ilkay Gundogan staking a claim for Player of the Year. Some saying these shouts are overrated or exaggerated, but I don't think so. I think the guy has a great season. 11 goals so far for him. He's a top scorer for Man City. In a season where they didn't have Aguero, Jesus isn't firing on all cylinders. Sterling as well doesn't do the same. And you have the likes of Mahrez not scoring a lot, Ferran Torres not scoring a lot, and the absence of Kevin De Bruyne. You have someone like Gundogan stepping up. That is a plus for any team in the world. And let alone him stepping up as a false 9 from all positions. Like, Gundogan isn't a false 9 by nature. But somehow, Guardiola made it work. And he made the whole system of false 9 now, from him to De Bruyne to Foden, really work with each one of those. And somehow still managing the results. And the clean sheets as well, in the back, conceding only once. Or 3 times, in the last 14 matches. And I'm including here cup games. And I'm really including cup games here because, in the league, it's been a long ass while since they conceded. Man City are on a serious mean run at the moment. Only 2 draws in the last 20 games or so. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous for Man City how they turned their form around from the early shambolic parts of the season to where they are now. Again, Tottenham didn't have a lot of chances. One at the beginning and one at the end. The free kick from Harry Kane and the shot from Gareth Bale. He wriggled past defenders and Ederson was there. Bad defending from Tottenham all around. Every goal, the goalkeeper could have done better about it, as I mentioned in the review, and overall, Man City were just a better side, and they, completely overruled Tottenham out of that game. Now Man City are, stomping their position at the top of the table, 53 points, 7 points ahead of Leicester. It could, of course, become 5 points if United managed to defeat West Brom today. Brighton drawing against Aston Villa, holding Aston Villa to a draw 0-0. It was a game where Brighton had the better chances. Brighton had 26 goal attempts against Aston Villa. They had 9 shots on goal. They forced 9 saves out of Emiliano Martinez. I have him in my fantasy lineup, so I'm probably the one who's mostly happy. Anyway, Premier League action continues, of course. On Sunday, it will be Southampton hosting Wolves, West Brom hosting Man United, Arsenal hosting Leeds, Everton hosting Fulham, and a couple of matches on Monday as West Ham host Sheffield United and Chelsea host Newcastle. From England, we move to Spain as the round 23, of course, continued its matches. Celta Vigo defeated Elche 3-1 on Friday, and on Saturday it kicked off with Atletico Madrid making the trip to the Andalusian side of Spain and facing Granada. It was a tough game for Diego Simeone. Granada gave them a really hard game, albeit with Atletico Madrid dominating most of it, having more possession, having more attempts, of course. But Granada managed to make it hard for them. They needed 63 minutes to open the scoring thanks to Marcos Llorente, but they didn't have the lead for a lot. 3 minutes in, and Yangel Herrera equalised for Granada. Angel Correa from the side managed to add the second goal inside 74 minutes, grinding out another win in the league for Atletico Madrid, and it's just getting closer and closer for that La Liga title. 9 points ahead of both Barcelona and Real Madrid, or 8 points ahead of them, 9 points ahead of Sevilla. Done and dusted. No, don't tell me otherwise. It's done and dusted. Atletico Madrid are seriously on a main run and going to win La Liga title. There is no debate about that. They can now go and have that as a motivation in the Champions League. They face Chelsea. It's not an easy game by any means of the imagination, but I think Atletico Madrid have a little bit of advantage over Chelsea in that tie. Barcelona and Real Madrid are only going to be fighting for the scraps of the second place, really, and even that could be, swooped off by Sevilla, who are having a decent season, continuing that form. Speaking of that, Sevilla, of course, managed to defeat Huesca 1-0. They also ground out a win in a game where they were the better side, clearly. As well, 1-0 it ended. Munir al-Haddadi bouncing on a beautiful cross from Oliver Torres to score the only goal of the game, giving Sevilla important 3 points and continuing on their run now. This is the 8th match now in a row for Sevilla where they are victorious, of course. 7 in the league and a cup game. Of course, 6 in the league, and 2 cup games, including Valencia, and of course the last game that they defeated Barcelona 2-0. Eibar drawn against Valladolid. It was all in the first half played. The goals both scored in the first half. Rocky Mesa scoring from a penalty in the 7th minute, and then Garcia Quique scoring the 23rd minute equaliser for Eibar, and the game stayed like that ever since. It was a pretty tight game with a little bit more of chances for Eibar. And the game of the night in La Liga was Barcelona. They managed to stomp all over Alaves 5-1, and make no mistake about it, this is the kind of win that Barcelona needed. And I know I'm not favouring them against PSG or anything. I'm not giving them any favour against PSG. I'm not giving them any advantage over them. And I still believe strongly that PSG are going to be winning, and potentially by a good margin, because Alaves are not the metric, but still, this is a big win for Barcelona, at least morally, or at least mentally and psychologically. It gets them a bit more motivated to the trip to Paris. 5-1 it ended, a bit of a rough period in the first 25 minutes. Alaves had a couple of chances and opportunities. Ter Stegen had to make a save early on before Trincao opens the account, of course, from Elias Moriba's assist, his first proper start with the side, of course, and because a lot of injuries are happening with that club, he needed to take someone from La Masia, and he needed someone from the youth academy, probably. Messi added the second goal. Beautiful finish for that second goal, thanks to Sergio Busquets' assist late on in the first half, and it was 2-0. At the break, it seemed for a while that Alaves are going to be, sort of annoying Barcelona and creeping back into the game. 57 minutes for Luis Rioja, scoring the half in the deficit from a bad mistake from Junior Firpo, giving away the ball in his own half. And then, of course, the late rout. Just like Leicester City scored 3 goals in 7 minutes, Barcelona scored the same amount of goals in 6 minutes. Trincao, Messi and Firpo all managed to add goals to the scoreline. 5-1 it ended at the Camp Nou. Again, an important victory. Not in terms of the league, because the league is done and dusted now. Obviously, because of the motivation ahead of the PSG game. The enemy for Barcelona, the rival for Barcelona, Barcelona's biggest rivals, Real Madrid, play today, of course. The continuation of the round is today. Getafe hosts Sociedad, Real Madrid hosting Valencia, big game to be expected. Levante hosting Osasuna, Villarreal hosting Real Betis, and Cadiz hosting Bilbao. That is on Monday. Moving on, and in Germany, in the Bundesliga, it was Drawmania Saturday. As the 5 matches that were played on Saturday, of course, ended all in draws. 2-2 it ended between Bayer Leverkusen and Mainz, 2-2 between 1-1 between Stuttgart and Hertha Berlin, 0-0 in 2 games, Werder Bremen Freiburg and Union Berlin Schalke. Obviously, the focal point, or 2 focal points here, are Bayer Leverkusen and Borussia Dortmund, and more specifically, to be fair, Borussia Dortmund, because Bayer Leverkusen are still in the top 4 discussion somehow. They still could manage a Champions League spot next season. But for Dortmund, it's a different conversation, because they could lose a European spot this season. First of all, Mönchengladbach could leap over them, because they play today against Wolfsburg, as well as Eintracht Frankfurt against Köln, who are already above them on the table. So for Dortmund, it's a bad situation. This is not a good look for Dortmund as of late, and despite having one of the best strikers in the world, they still could not manage, a lot of wins that they want to. They won only 1 proper league game in their last 6. And, the other win was against Paderborn in the Cup, and it was really, really hard, and they almost got ousted in the extra time. So for Dortmund now, they need to take a look at themselves in the mirror really well and realise that the season is escaping. Exciting football isn't exactly, cutting the mustard here. They need to add some solidity in the back, and somehow their system is, despite having someone like Mats Hummels in it, you could see that. They needed more good defenders. Playing with Emre Can, and as a right back, Jude Bellingham as a central midfielder, it doesn't really work. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. In that sort of back 4 shifting into a back 3 with Guerrero going up as a wing back, Giovanni Reina playing as a wing back as well in that back 3, and 5 in the middle formation. It's just not working for Dortmund. The exciting football is not cutting the mustard. Adding more solidity in the defense is really, really important against the Hoffenheim side that is not getting a lot of points. As of late, the form of Hoffenheim has been also terrible. Talk about Dortmund. Hoffenheim have only 2 wins in their last 9 league games as well. Since the last win against Mönchengladbach back in late 2020, they couldn't win a game if they wanted to. It's sort of a problematic for Dortmund now to find troubles against these sides, to find troubles against Hoffenheim, to lose against Freiburg, to find troubles against Paderborn in the Cup, to lose against Gladbach, Leverkusen, draw against Mainz. And before all of that, they win against Leipzig. It still mind-boggles you, and you don't understand what is the rationale that Dortmund play with. For Bayer Leverkusen, they dropped the lead very late. Unlike Dortmund, who saved a point, Bayer Leverkusen lost 2 against Mainz. They were in control, and they were cruising in terms of possession and in terms of the lead as well. They should have seen the game off easily, but the defensive mistakes, penalty given away in the 89th minute and into 5 minutes of stoppage time. Obviously, there's a chance, and Stöger scoring the second goal, of course, making it 2-2. Kevin Stöger equalising for Mainz and giving them, I would say, an important point, but looking at the table, I don't think it is. 14 points, they still at 17th placed. No big changes in the table. Bayer Leverkusen stay in their place. Everybody stays in their place, really, in the table. No big changes. But the changes probably going to be coming today when, as I mentioned, on Sunday, as Eintracht Frankfurt play FC Köln, Wolfsburg play Mönchengladbach. That's a very, very interesting game. And, of course, on Monday, it will be Bayern Munich hosting Arminia Bielefeld. finishing off and rounding off the episode, it is the Serie A, of course. 4 games were played already of this round 22. Spezia defeated AC Milan 2-0 today. Napoli defeated Juventus 1-0. Torino Genoa 0-0, and on Friday it was Bologna drawing against Benevento 1-1. Obviously, this was a missed chance for both sides, for Juventus and for Milan. 2 away losses for them. They don't score, and both have terrible performances. Like, AC Milan have no shots on target against Spezia. Like, you're kidding me. Like, you're telling me that that you know, I mean, and they played with like first team. Don't get me wrong. Like, they played with first team lineup, like Chiaro, Romagnoli, Kessie, but Nasser was there, Çalhanoğlu was back, Leao, Salamakis and Ibrahimovic. All of these players didn't manage a shot on target against Spezia. And even the number of shots overall, like 7, Spezia had 15 and 5 shots on goal, and despite having some sort of, I mean, the game is really tight. The game was really tight, and it shouldn't have been. Like, if Milan want to win the title, it shouldn't have been that tight, but it was that tight, and Spezia managed 2 goals. The second goal, by the way, oh my goodness. Like, both goals are beautiful, but the first goal you could attribute to some stupidity in the defense. You know, they were caught out of possession too high, really. AC Milan, it was counter-attack perfection from Spezia for the first goal by Maggiore. But the second goal, I mean, it's a pure beauty, seriously. You know, from Simone Bastoni, a pure left foot just leathered it around Donnarumma, and in the sea of defenders in front of him, he couldn't see it. It just fizzed past him into the left corner, and it was 2-0. In the 67th minute, and they saw the game off pretty well. Spezia, they managed to defend really, really well. The second half, again, was more defensive for them than the first one, but AC Milan couldn't do anything if they wanted to. If they played 2 matches extra time with that game, they wouldn't have scored, really. Juventus in Napoli also had the same fate, pretty much. But with more domination, more shots, more attempts for them, particularly in the second half. Like, if this was the probably this is going to be called the Juventus syndrome, isn't it? Playing a slow first half, a methodical first half, just rolling the ball around, not having a lot of chances, letting the other team press you, you know, as they usually do, and then try to have a great second half and try to win the game in the second half. It's just not working today. Literally since the 9th, this is the 23rd minute, you know, the 31st minute, sorry, Lorenzo Insigne from a penalty spot. I mean, it was a penalty. It was a stupid foul from Chiellini, really. I mean, he should have seen the players around him to avoid those kind of contacts. And I know that sometimes it's unavoidable and it's accidental, but seriously, it's a stupid foul from Chiellini. Shouldn't be given those. I'm expecting those from De Ligt. Really, he's more prone to those kind of penalties. Insigne scored the penalty. It was a meticulous one, by the way, like right on the roof of the net. Brilliant finish. And from then on, Napoli just, managed the game really well. And they had a terrific second half, defending. No shots on target, really. No shots whatsoever. Like, they were pinned to their defence by Juventus in the second half, but somehow Juventus 16 shots in the second half alone, including 5 on target, and they couldn't score. You could say that of course, that Meret had a great game in the second half. He pulled some great saves as well, and overall he had 6 saves in the game to make, 6 big saves to make. So it's not exactly the best game from Napoli offensively, but defensively they had a terrific performance and they got the 3 points ahead of a crucial, giving themselves a crucial, boost in the arm, really, not in the title race pretty much as his Champions League spots. I still think, if Milan drop points in the derby, like, oh boy, this is going to open a lot of gates in terms of the title race. Of course, it depends a lot on the results today. Torino, of course, drawn against Genoa, goalless. It continues a bad spell for Torino. They are close to the relegation zone. They're still hovering around those spots, so they need to be careful. They're 5 points behind their closest competitor in the table, Fiorentina, 22 points. I mean, they should find a little bit of form soon, or else they're going to be suffering a lot, and probably they'll be relegated. Games continue on Sunday, of course. Roma hosts Udinese, Sampdoria hosts Fiorentina, Cagliari, Atalanta, Crotone, Sassuolo, Inter hosting Lazio, of course, the big game, and Verona hosting Parma. Inter, of course, with a big chance to go top of the table for the first time properly lead into the next week as the leaders of the table. And what a week it will be, because it will be the Milan derby against AC Milan. And heading into that derby as top of the table will give them a huge boost in the arm. That's it from me. I'm your boy, the HOD of the PSP. Thank you for watching / listening. You can like, share, subscribe to the channel, of course, enable notifications to receive all the updates from these podcast episodes and other content on the channel. Follow us on social media, PSP on Twitter, page Sideboard on Instagram, and you can listen to this on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform. Until next time, I'll see you soon. I'll be back with a review for the CAF Champions League later on today, so expect that, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.